is a presentation of the iRacing eSports Network.
Welcome to Brands Hatch, which hosts the knockout round for road race number 3 of the 2018 World Cup of iRacing. All coverage today is on RaceBot TV, streaming live on the iRacing eSports Network. Qualifying is coming up next. Don't leave us. The action never stops here at iRacing. Here's an annual event all drivers look forward to as we creep closer towards the end of 2018. The champions of each nation collide in a tug of war for national glory and patriotism as we welcome you to Brands Hatch, located in Kenton, England, which hosts the knockout round for road race number 3 of the 2018 World Cup of iRacing. It's the UK and Ireland versus Italy, with all coverage today on RaceBot TV, streaming live on the iRacing eSports Network around the 3.88 kilometer, 2.411 mile Grand Prix layout of Brands Hatch we are using today. Clear skies out there as well, with only 10 km/h winds. 9 turns available around this clockwise layout. 3 of those to the left, 6 to the right. We'll probably have 3 races of thrilling action, and we'll talk about the race format in a little bit later on. Elevation change of up to 30 meters around Brands Hatch, from the lowest point of the circuit at Druid's Hairpin all the way to the highest point through the high-speed corner of Westfield in the middle sector. Good afternoon, everybody. Jonathan Simon on hand in the commentary booth alongside Lorenzo Bonda, Paul Smith behind the scenes in production. Lorenzo, here we are at Brands Hatch, such an iconic circuit around the motor racing universe and such a great fit for the World Cup of iRacing for 2018.
Welcome, Jonathan, and welcome everybody to the race 3, as you said. Yeah, and absolutely, it is a very magnificent track for these drivers to be in, and the cars are actually driving as well. It is a perfect fit. They're driving, as you guys are seeing on the broadcast, the Lotus 79 model, which is the first car to have the ground effect used, the full usage of the ground effect of aerodynamics, and actually did race in this track in 1979, if I'm not, well, actually 1980, if I'm not mistaken. And here the track actually did host 12 times the British Grand Prix between 64 and 86, with the fastest lap actually coming in 1986, done by Nigel Mansell in the Williams FW11 Honda. But it is a very magnificent track. You just had a lot of elevation changes and a lot of fast corners And with a car that doesn't have either ABS or traction control, it's going to be very hard to maintain control of this car, especially in those twisted sections where you go from fast to slow and you need to go back on the acceleration to go full power again, so you can actually try to be in the train of those cars.
So we're currently in qualifying. We can see Mark Usher leading the timing screens on the left-hand side of the screen. We're using, as Lorenzo said, the Lotus 79, which is, man, what a challenge it is for these drivers here today from the UK and Ireland versus Italy. Jack McIntyre finds himself in the second position, of course, as well, with Alex Millward in the third position. The first Italian on the list, we have to go all the way down to P5, and that is Francesco Miola, who sets a 1 minute 13.0. So 4/10 off the pace, Lorenzo, for Italy in these opening stages in qualifying.
Yeah, and right now that actually was the pace around the practice session, because basically there was a UK&I domination on practice, but that doesn't, we need to see if that translates into qualifying and also racing, because all kinds of changes happens during racing, of course. But yeah, as you said, Mark Usher with the best lap right now, as you said, 1:12.623. But all those drivers in Italy, they are very capable of maintaining the pace with the British and Ireland drivers. So I really am interested how the 12 laps around this track are going to pan out.
So we're riding, well, we're not riding on, but we're watching now Moreno. What am I saying? Moreno Sorica in the, what position? That 16th position. There it is on the bottom left-hand side of the screen. Look at the sector times as well. Not particularly quick. That first lap time, 1 minute 21, not quick at all. And Moreno goes straight into the pit lane. So that's quite an abysmal lap time here for the World Cup. So he'll be lamenting that come race time. But rest of the grid seems sorted. I think that is it. There's no other drivers out on track. And Lorenzo, that means that qualifying is probably all said and done. Let's have a look at your grid for today's first heat. Oh, I really wish we had the other music, Paul. The music I love. But we're going to start with this one. Mark Usher in the first position with a 1 minute 12.6. He'll be joined by his UK and Ireland teammate in Jack McIntyre. How close was it between the top two there? 0.5 of a second on the second row. Alex Millward and George Lambert round out the top four. Francesco Miola, the first Italian driver, joined by another Italian compatriot of Enzo Cantor on screen. Mark Pickford in 7th, followed by Marco Sanfilippo. One of the Sanfilippos out here racing today. Danilo all the way down the order you'll see later on. Barry West and Matthew Webb round out the top 10. The rest of the grid will be on screen. Now, Lorenzo, for these drivers starting outside the top 10, the overtaking chances here around Brands Hatch are ever important right now. You look at the likes of Druid's Hairpin to start the lap as well. But all the way up at Hawthorne Hill through the middle sector and maybe even Sheen, Curve or Sterling's, there's plenty of overtaking spots here around this high-speed circuit.
Absolutely. You got at least 3 or 4 spots here, as you said, from Paddock Hill all the way to Druids, and then on to Surtees all the way to Hawthorne's and maybe Sheen, as you said, and then the last bend, which goes over Sterling's all the way to Clark Curve, and then headed to the main straight. So, as you said, overtaking is going to be clean, very key, and it's a standing start, so they need to be very mindful of these first 3 sectors. Not first 3 seconds, but first 3 turns all the way into the Graham Hill, and be sure they avoid any contact.
Yeah, great point. Standing start here is so difficult in such a classic car as well. It's just under a 300-meter run to turn number 1, around 250 meters to be more specific. And it's allowing plenty of overtaking opportunities. They'll wrap through Paddock Hill Bend, head towards Druid's Hairpin. Now wait for the lights to illuminate here. 15 minutes of racing action or 12 laps, depending on what we finish first. 1 pit stop is required by all drivers. Starting on the pits, or starting from the pits, is not allowed. That does not count as your mandatory pit stop. You can do it, but there's no point to it. I like to rap and rhyme. The driver's still waiting here. Only a few seconds remaining, hopefully, till we head towards the start of the race. Maybe Mark Usher will lead the way for the UK and Ireland group. How will Francesco Miola go from the 5th position? He's starting on the left-hand side of screen there. He is the 3rd driver in line on that left-hand side, starting from 5th.
Also remember that Drew is actually very famous for dive bombing.
Certainly is. Lights illuminate. Engines rev. We go green for round 3. What a rapid start from Jack McIntyre. Mark Usher swamped across the line as well, and that demotes Mark Usher to the 2nd position. But UK and Ireland still head your way into the top 5 as well. What a great start from those two. And look at the Italian driver there, Lorenzo Canta. Yeah, exactly. So Canta around the outside in the 924. Brilliant start, Lorenzo, but more action behind.
Yeah, more action behind. Actually, clean start for most of the drivers. Barely seen any contact whatsoever, but so far an UK&I domination with Enzo Kenta trying to follow up the field. And as you can see, Mark Pickford and Mark Pickford and Francisco Miola battling for 6 and 7 going into Hawthorne.
Oh, so close between the two. They're still alongside each other here. Now they start to form up. I love these beautiful liveries here representing both nations. They head towards the middle part of the lap here through Westfield, then Sheen Curve coming up, of course, as well. Boy, he was that close between the two, and off the racetrack there is Barry West. He's losing positions. Oh, wow. How close was that, Lorenzo?
That was really close. I actually touched wheels. I actually thought there was going to be a crash for a second. No, that was close. That nearly a crash between Daniele Gattuso and also Barry West. Actually, Marcelo Pagan in that direction. And Barry West, as Barry's still not out of the woods yet, battling on turn 1.
Looking for a move here, possibly on the inside of Druids. Great defensive driving there by Moreno Sorica. And Moreno there, perfect, maintains a top 10 position. You talked about his start, Lorenzo. Rapid start, he started 16th, now into the top 10, but he demoted here as Barry West gets the run out of Graham Hill Bend. Nobody locks up. Oh, this is comical for Barry West.
Yeah, Barry's having a lot of issues with this track, but we got to remember, it is a very hot track. It's 35 Celsius degrees on the outside, and he tries. He did try. But he's struggling a lot with the car. You can see the car is very loose. He's trying to do a lot of corner, nearly touched again the guy in front of him. Lost one more place.
Oh, he's let 4 Italians through. Yeah, well, if you think about it, technically, Lorenzo, he's let 4 Italians through. This is not good for the UK and Ireland team, but Barry West definitely not trying to do that. Here we look at George Lambert on screen, who's currently in the 5th position. George Lambert demoted a spot after Enzo Canta's blistering start, and Lambert looking to hunt down Canta for the 4th position.
Absolutely, and Canta is one of the drivers we see. Oh, there he goes in the front back. Jack McIntyre actually having a bad entry into Druids and let Mark Usher pass. I don't know, actually, he did let Mark Usher pass, but their teammates and points are very important to their teams, where Mark Usher takes back the lead.
So good teamwork there from Jack McIntyre, if that was intentional. And there you go, there was the move on screen. It looked, I hate the word team orders, but it did look like team orders there, Lorenzo, but it was probably more driver orders in terms of Jack McIntyre saying, hey, you know what, Mark, you're a lot quicker than me. Go on, win this race with the UK and Ireland team.
At least you guarantee 25 points. Meanwhile, the 2nd place guarantees 21. I'm going to go really quickly over here the points because we have to know the top 10 actually gets points. First gets 25, second gets 21, third gets 18, fourth 15, 12 for 5th. 10 for 6, 8 for 7, 6 for 8, 4 points to the 9th place, and 2 points to the 10th place. So every point is going to be very important, especially in close battles like this.
Oh, what a tough tussle this was. And you spoke about, we were speaking about this before the broadcast in the limited time we had. The Finland versus Japan race was pretty spectacular as well. I mean, Finland just absolutely dominating that event.
Yeah, Finland just absolutely having a very dominant first race. Second race was more of a clustered race, having a lot of battles in between, but still Finland pulling it off in the end of the day and qualifying for the next stage.
So here they are through the middle sector. And here's the battle as well between the Italian teams. Moreno Sorica again. He should not be in the 10th position. Moreno has just been passed by Daniele Gattuso, his Italian teammate. And again, Moreno finds himself in the 10th position. Now, he started the race from 16th, like we said. So drivers out of this event so far is nobody. Matthew Webb a lap behind. But apart from that, everybody seems to be keeping this car clean. Now, I'm so surprised. And I think that's more of an insult, Lorenzo, because I think I underestimated the talent of these drivers right now. This is such a difficult car as we see George Lambert, as well as the driver of Mark Pickford, enter for early pit stops. This is quite spectacular that these drivers are so quick in these cars.
And they're very quick in these cars. I would not be able to handle this kind of car. And remember, this is a Ford Cosworth engine car, and naturally aspirated. And it was actually in the very beginning of the turbo era because there was the Renault turbo engine. And basically that set the standard for turbo engines on the 80s, as you guys probably know. But a very fast engine and, as I said, car with no TC and ABS, and very basic car so far. Need to have the arms and the foot power and the foot strength to actually keep the control of the car on the track.
Yeah, it is a DFV V8 engine from Ford as well. Cosworth as well, if you want to be a bit more specific. I'm very surprised, Paul, that Cosworth is such a successful engine in Formula One after what I saw in 2010, and that a catastrophe that was with all the 4 teams that ran the Cosworth engine. But anyway, there goes our Cosworth sponsorship for RaceBot. Now through through the middle sector. So the one thing I noticed, Lorenzo, was in the pit stops, we saw how quick the likes of George Lambert was. Mark Pickford was a lot longer in his box. Now, you can take to the pit stop, but as long as it's registered on the timing screens, that's all that matters here in the World Cup. You can make a 0.1 of a second pit stop, and that's enough to be classified for a mandatory pit stop here. So you don't have to take tires, you just have to park it in the box if you want.
Yeah, as long as you don't do it on the last lap, because it is stated in the rules, drivers cannot pit on the last lap. Just put the car in it, let it go in and go out. That's it. You don't need to do anything else. As long as you actually register a pit stop, you're all good.
What's the quickest pit stop in F1 history? Our statistician Paul Smith will get it. No, I'm joking.
If I'm not mistaken, it is done by Williams. Less than 2 seconds. I think it was in 2017. I cannot remember.
Oh God, you know it.
The track code.
I was 1.9 seconds. I think you're right though, Lorenzo. It probably was by Williams. I was just joking, and we actually know the facts here at RaceBot. How good are we? Lap 7 of 12 across the start-finish line right now. Oh, here's in the pit lane right now is Alex Millward. So Millward in the pit lane and exits away right now. Now, does he have traffic behind him? No, that shot looks clear. So Alex Millward looks like he's got no traffic behind. George Lambert is a few seconds down the road. There he is, George Lambert on screen. But Daniele Gattuso yet to make a pit stop up in front. So Alex Millward now, Lorenzo, leads the field for the drivers who have made their pit stops.
Yeah, but I believe that Mark Kushner and the other boys in front of them, they're actually not going to lose a lot of time in the pits, because as long as they do a good pit, do not mess their boxes and everything else, they should be just fine. So so far, Millwall retaining is probably going to retain 3rd place, because this pit stop was actually really quick. It was a 16.1 pit. So that 0.2 of a second that he saved compared to George Lambert will probably keep him in 3rd place once everybody in the front of him does his pits.
Look at this beautiful sight right now of that number 3 of Mark Usher driving away. Now we switch to number 31 of Barry West on screen. They head through Sterling's. Such an iconic corner, Sterling's. Every corner on this circuit is absolutely iconic. Here's the clearways. This is where the Indy circuit rejoins the Grand Prix layout, and then Clark Curve, the final corner on towards the Brabham State. We ride on board with Marco Frontini. Let's have a listen to how close Barry West gets here. Gets close to the Druids hairpin, Lorenzo, but not close enough.
Yeah, he tries to make a movement on Druids, not good enough, but he's probably going to have the arrow effect. Oh, he actually tries to go even closer on sorry, I was going to say Sheena, but I'm going crazy. That's Surtees. And now he's gonna have to carry all the speed into Hawthorns. Maybe try to keep it at least a 0.3 second gap onto Sheen, and then try to move on Clark. If not, just try it on the main straight into Paddock Hill. As I said, a lot of overtaking spots over here, but you can see he's still struggling with his car. His car is still a little bit loose, so he needs to make it a place that actually he's sure that he's not gonna spin his car onto acceleration.
We just saw the quickest pit stop in all of mankind. I think that was less than a second. And Marina Sarica comes out. It was so quick, we didn't even see the pit crew out there. That's alongside each other is Barry West and Frontini Mariko, excuse me, is off the racetrack. And Frontini right now, let's have a look at this, Lorenzo. Running on board with Barry West. Gets a great tow here across the Babham Straight. Oh, there's no room, and that's a bit hard to judge. Barry West, though, was a long way off the apex.
Yeah, and the overlap from Barry West is actually in it, so they were side to side coming into Paddock Hill. I think Frontini just misjudged the situation a little bit and maybe had a contact, but for me, it's a complete race incident.
What's the most iconic UK food, Paul? Oh, Lorenzo, do you know? I know you're Brazilian, but is there any as we see more drivers make the pit stops? I was thinking, are we going to celebrate by eating pizza or pasta or possibly fish and chips?
I thought about fish and chips.
Yeah, here we go. Alex Millward now still fighting away with Daniel Gattuso. Oh, Gattuso's had technical issues. Now reappears as well. There they are at the top end of the screen. So with the other drivers making their pit stop, Millward leads the bunch away. Don't forget, Gattuso has not entered the pit lane and now is overtaken by another UK and Ireland driver of George Lambert, who shoves his way past the Italian. Gattuso now into sixth. Oh, this is just an absolutely dominated race by the UK and Ireland team. It's a bit of bias too because it is a home track.
Yeah, so basically they're driving with home crowd pressure. Imagine if they don't get a good result, maybe a riot incoming? Fair to say?
Possibly. Here's Mark Usher in the pit lane. And so the only driver to continue, none of them continue. Miola's in the pit lane, that's it. Gattuso is off the racetrack, by the way, at Sterling's, just hearing news. Mark Usher makes a quick pit stop. And Gattuso will enter the pit lane, so that is it. Everyone's going to make their mandatory pit stop, but here's the replay on screen. Lorenzo, talk us through it.
All right, so basically, as you guys saw, Gattuso is struggling a lot of his car coming into after Sheen. And Sheen is a very hard corner for you to keep control of, but Sterling's, I think it's much worse because you're coming out of the fast corner and you need to go into medium braking, and that turn has a little bit of banking. So having the car clean and having to make the turn through it is a little bit complicated, and Daniele Gattuso just not being able to keep the car on track, so had to throw a little bit off. Luckily, didn't touch the wall, so keeping the car on track. And uninjured, that would be a good thing for him, as long as he gets points. And right now, he's in the last spot to get points, so every point, I said, counts. But right now, Italy is going to have to do a lot more in order to actually go through to the next round.
Yep, so our road quarterfinal number 3 is coming to a close. We'll have a second race. The grid will be inverted. We'll possibly see Mark Usher climb his way through the order. Here he begins the final lap of Heat 1 for road quarterfinal number 3. Still racing here with the likes of Barry West. He has been in battles every single lap of this event almost. And through Clark Curve. Whoa! Aggressive driving between the two. Swerving across the main straight west here. Into turn 1.
Up and over, maybe? Oh, nicely done by Barry West.
Simple move in the end. Just played with Marina Sarica. And the Italian now has been demoted to the 9th position on this final lap. How about Mark Usher, though? He's coming towards a close. He was let through by Jack McIntyre early on in the event. Good teamwork from Jack, but Mark Usher has been the quickest driver all day. Comes through the final few corners. Through Sterling's, under the bridge here at the clearways, and then Clark Curve and Mark Usher will be victor for Heat 1 for road quarterfinal number 3 of the 2018 World Cup of iRacing. UK and Ireland on top, and they dominate Italy in today's event because they will swamp the podium with Millward and McIntyre, Lambert in 4th. The first Italian comes across the line in Enzo Canto, who had a rapid start in that number 924 car. That is your top 5 for the event, but Mark Usher representing UK and Ireland proud, Lorenzo. He was just untouched. What can you do to stop this guy?
I have a few ideas, but I'm not going to mention them because it is not proper. But maybe. But as I said, as you guys probably start seeing on the screen, Mark Usher is going to be first, Alex Millward second, Jim McIntyre third, George Lambert fourth, Enzo Kenta fifth, Francesco Meola sixth, Marco Sanfilippo seventh, Barry West is eighth, for Moreno Strica ninth, and Mirko Frontini is in 10th place. We're just gonna go right quickly into second race because they're actually gonna line up the cars on the grid. It's that quick. We're actually over when we're going to second race in a bit.
It's like the iRacing Rallycross series. The funny thing is that I don't think driver Mike Ullett will be starting from the first position. It'll be Matthew Webb who will head the field away, of course, as well. So the grid will be a little bit jumbled, but we'll read it out anyway. Matthew Webb will technically start the race from first, followed by Steve Greenwood, Marcelo Pagnan, then Danilo Sanfilippo in third. Lights illuminate the engine starting to rev in just a second's time. But it's basically inverted from your last result. So Mark Usher here, Lorenzo, has a lot of work to do from the last position.
He's going to have to crawl all his way up from toward the 16th spot. Meanwhile, this is the golden opportunity. The Italian drivers must, and I'm not saying they should, they must at least retain the top 3 and maybe 4th place as lights are about to go green here on the second race.
We go green!
Here we go.
Oh, there's already a collision there. Sanfilippo, I think he's engaged reverse gear. Oh, there's more calamity across the main straight. Chaos, we didn't need you to start this event, but the race continues nonetheless here as we head towards the first lap. Replays on screen anyway. Have a look at this. It looked like Danilo Sanfilippo, he just popped down. I feel like Lorenzo, he either stalled or just didn't engage first gear, and then more contact up ahead, some friendly fire, cars upside down, but the racing continues nevertheless here. Marcelo Pagnan leads the field away here in the opening laps as well. No, Marcelo's out of the event, so actually our timing screens are playing up here at the moment, Lorenzo.
Timing screen is actually playing a little bit of a trick on us, but so far, if I'm not mistaken, the driver in front is still Matthew Webb as he packs up in the field, and there maybe Steve Greenwood on second place, followed by Mark Pickford, and in 4th place is Mirko Frontini, and then 5th is Francesco Meola, 6th is Barry West, 7th is going to be Mark Usher, most likely George Lambert, Alex Millward, and Jack McIntyre will probably run out of the top 10.
Yeah, the funny thing is that the number 15 there, Meola, is so far behind. Here the driver's making early pit stops, either to repair damage or just get it out of the way and get out of traffic. But there is your leader. So that is Matthew Webb in the lead. The timing screen's finally starting to update here. Matthew Webb in first position, Greenwood second, Pickford third, as we said. And the driver's running wide onto the grass creek there. You can do that here at Graham Hill Bend in the exit. Fastest way to get around Brands Hatch. Look at this beautiful shot here through Surtees, and now on the long straight through Pilgrim Crop and then Hawthorne. Now, I'll tell you what, Lorenzo, these pit stops by, or the early pit stops by these drivers are really going to shake things up for the rest of the race.
Yeah, because drivers in the front, they need to hustle up because otherwise those who just did pits. Let me just see who did pits really quickly. If I'm not mistaken, that's Mark Usher, Jack McIntyre, and Alex Millward. They just done their pits, and very quick pits, by the way. they're most likely gonna be the top three, as we said. They were very dominant into practice, and race one, you guys just seen, they were very dominant as well. So naturally, if all just goes into their way, they're probably gonna be the top three once again. So pick up the pace, boys.
Yeah, so more pit stops here as well there. And the driver of Mark Pickford enters the lane. Now, where's Mark Usher? That is the interesting story. He's made a pit stop. Very quick one for Mark Usher. But he is not the leading driver who has made a pit stop. Mark Pickford. Actually, no, he's just gone past. No, I'm wrong. Sorry. He is behind Mark Pickford there. So, Usher still 2 seconds behind. And he could find his way possibly into a race win here. It would be ever incredible, Lorenzo, in an inverted grid.
Yeah, could be. As said, we are 3 laps into our race, so very possible. I'm not gonna lie, it's very possible that he might pick up the win, as if anything doesn't go south, of course. And the Lotus 79 is a tricky car, so there is that possibility.
Yeah, there certainly is. Here they are through the middle part of the lap here, lap 3 of 12. And Usher is fine. Webb doesn't enter the pit lane. Now, as a leader, Lorenzo, you don't want to make your pit stop too early and feed out into traffic, and I think that's what Matthew Webb's trying to consider here.
Yeah, but I'm thinking if I was Webb right now, I think I would actually do the pit right on this lap, because you're still with good gap to the guys in front of you. The gap right now to Steve Greenwood is 1.5 seconds approximately. And the gap to Mark Pickford is around 8 seconds, 8 seconds and a half, around 10 seconds if I'm to calculate everything on the top of my head, and I'm usually not good with calculations on the top of my head. So do the pit stop right now, just guarantee those 25 points. Just going over again, the 25 points for the race winner. Second place is going to get 21. Third gets 18 if you're just just joining us right now. Fourth place gets 15 points. Fifth gets 12. Sixth place gets 10 points. Seventh gets 8. Eighth place gets 6. Ninth gets 4. And the last place in the top 10 gets 2 points.
Plenty of points on offer as well in all these races. We'll have more events coming up as well. So after this, of course, don't forget, after this road event, we'll just have about an hour's time after that. We'll head to the oval portion of the series, so don't miss it. RaceSpot TV will be covering that, of course, as well. And thanks to our colleagues over at the SimSpeed Esports Network for their help earlier on. And I did get the chance to work with them, Lorenzo, a few weeks ago. Very good bunch of, very great crew we have here around iRacing and around esports. You know, everybody's so passionate about this. And this is the broadcast crews we're talking about. Look at these drivers in the cars. You know, they're racing for their nations right now. This isn't even an individual accolade for some of these drivers, and they're still out there and having fun in sim racing.
Yeah, they're having a good time. They're enjoying themselves. Of course, they're representing their countries and representing their territory. As probably you guys, if you guys are not aware, some actually the countries are split up by some territories like UK and Ireland. United States is split up into 3 teams: Stars, All-Stars, and maybe I don't remember the other team, which name it is. New York, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, drivers from all around the countries having fun representing their countries, and hoping to get some prizes down in the finals if they actually do get it.
Hopefully we do so. Lap 6 of 12 here in the event. We still run on board. Oh, I thought he was going to go off the racetrack there. The driver of George Lambert, making things so interesting here. Now he travels through the exit, through Graham Hill Bend, hunting down the driver ahead of Francesco Miola. Lambert started this race from 18th, Miola from 16th. Where will they feed out when they make that mandatory pit stop? You cannot start from the pits. Of course, these drivers didn't do that. You cannot make the mandatory pit stop on the final lap of the event. So that's something that they have to take into consideration as well. They only have to make a pit stop where they stop completely in the box and leave. You don't need to take tires or fuel. And where will that shuffle the order come the end of this event as well? As they, well, I was going to say drive through the middle sector. They scream through these corners of Sheen Curve and now Sterling's. under the bridge here at the clearways yet another time, but no way through. They've all been in formation, and as I say that, drivers off the racetrack, it looks like, well, Matthew Webb's into the pit lane, but how about Frontini has lost the position there to Miola, and George Lambert all the way behind. On the defensive is Frontini now, defending for Italian pride. Around the outside is Lambert, and he'll hopefully seal that third position for the UK and Ireland team, and does exactly that. What a great move from George Lambert.
Yeah, going on the outside into from Paddock Hill and then into Druids. Very nicely done by George Lambert. As we saw, George was actually 4th place into race 1. So climbing up the field, and as long as he can actually make some moves down over here into his probably final lap of this spin, that should be really turning into a really good result. Who knows, maybe a podium finish to it?
Say it again?
I was going to say maybe a podium finish? Question mark?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. Who knows? It's, these Lotus 79s are so loud, by the way. I cannot hear a word. Oh, there's a spin. Frontini is off the racetrack yet again. So more mistakes from Mirko Frontini, excuse me. And Frontini, it's actually good to hear a Lotus quiet for once, because it's still so loud here trying to listen to these cars right now. Mark Usher finds his way through. So that's important now, because Paul Smith just pointed out behind the scenes, Lorenzo, in our production team, that Mark Usher is the leading driver. And as we see, oh my God, Miola's off as well for the Italian team. Oh, and look at the front end of that car. But oh, there's so much to cover right now. As we look at the replay, Usher leads the drivers, haven't made a pit stop. That is a hefty incident into the barrier there for Miola.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to wonder what happened to Miola to actually have this kind of just lost control coming into Paddock Hill. And Paddock is basically a blind corner with a blind apex of sorts. You know where the apex is of sorts, but coming into the apex, that's easier said than done. So unfortunately for Miola, doing that kind of movement just paid off the worst possible price for him.
Running on board now, we are with Steve Greenwood. Let's see if he enters the pit lane this time around.
He does.
He does. Greenwood into the pits. And where will he feed out? It looks like UK and Ireland could be on the run here towards a second victory if all things come to play. Let's look at how quick this pit stop is for Greenwood. Stops in the box. Very cautious there into the box. It was a Romain Grosjean pit entry. He's so cautious. I don't know if you've noticed that, everybody. That was very random, but Grosjean's just so cautious.
I had a joke ready for that.
Oh, what's the joke? Tell us.
Did he come into the pits without crashing?
That's what I thought too, but I was like, wait a second, it's ironic. He's actually so cautious.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Usher now. Looks like he could actually win this race at the end of the day. How incredible would that be, Lorenzo, from the back end of the grid?
Well, as I was saying, Usher just kept the car on track, made some moves into the start of the race. Let's count the fact that the Italian drivers got entangled into the very beginning of the race. At least three drivers got entangled in the very beginning on basically lap 1. So Usher just having the nice drive, scenic drive, going into places.
I don't blame Italy if they don't end up winning this quarterfinal number 3, because they are up against basically how many countries? 4 countries at the moment. As we see, the number 3 there on screen, that's Mark Usher. There, he's just wrapping around Druid's hairpin, and the number 12 up ahead is George Lambert, your leader. Surely by the end of this, when George Lambert makes that mandatory pit stop, which you'll have to take this time round, Lorenzo, because he can't make it next lap. It'll be the final lap of the event.
Yeah.
It looks like George Lambert will be demoted to at least the 2nd position.
I'm gonna go a little bit more bold than that and say he's probably gonna go into 3rd place, because you lose no matter what. You're gonna lose 16 seconds in the pits, so he's gonna be into 3rd place, probably close to Jack McIntyre. I don't know if Jack is going to actually be able to overtake him at the exit of the pits. It's going to be very, very, very close.
Well, this is odd right now because Matthew Webb, who started this race from pole position, has made his second pit stop. I think he's out of the event. Oh, no, he's not. He continues. Matthew Webb. Oh, so this is a replay. Excuse me. Oh, he's crashed on the exit. Goodness gracious. And that means Matthew Webb's day is done there. Oh, that was a James Allen moment, wasn't it? I was like, commentating a replay. Now they come through the... Who's this now? This is the number 12 there of George Lambert. Hasn't entered the pit lane. So Lambert, again, he'll have to make it this time round. Does this classify Lorenzo? Technically, he'll be traveling through the pit lane. He'll enter on the penultimate lap. So I guess it does count, but he'll be traveling through on the final lap, if that makes sense.
It does count. As long as he doesn't start the last lap and then goes into pits and pulls on Michael Schumacher, he's all good.
Yeah, it's obviously... Yeah. One of the most iconic moments in pretty much Formula One history. Yeah, that was so weird. I'm very proud of myself, by the way. I'm Murray Walker that. I was commentating a replay and I had no idea. Here's George Lambert. It was proper Murray Walker, wasn't it? George Lambert into the pit lane. And this is that final pit stop, which should hand the lead here to Mark Usher. There he is on screen. But it doesn't matter regardless, because it's all about the UK and Ireland team. Usher screams across the main straight, and he leads the UK and Ireland field away. Where will Pickford feed out in relation to Lambert exiting the pit lane? Pickford is in the third position, so Lambert there, some strong pace, still in second.
Didn't manage to lose the second and third spot, actually. I thought he was going to lose that spot to Mark Pickford and Jack McIntyre. I actually thought, I really was confident he was going to lose those places, but he actually bit my tongue, made me cut my tongue and bit in 3 pieces. Nicely done.
Well, that's quite painful, of course, as well. Here's Mark Usher, though. And yet again, he's going to lead the UK and Ireland team to 2 victories in a row. And they will pretty much sweep out road quarterfinal number 3 now, officially, with this victory. Mark Usher with a couple of corners to go. And even if he makes a mistake, the top 7 all covered by UK and Ireland. But this driver, it's going to be all said and done. He's driven splendidly, and Usher takes victory and confirms it for the UK and Ireland club. There he is on screen, and Mark Usher, with such a remarkable drive, pulls off the racetrack. There are his teammates on screen of Lambert, Pickford, McIntyre. Then we'll have Millward, Greenwood, and West. We have to wait all the way to Mirko Frontini, who will come across the line now in 8th for our first Italian driver. Not the day for Italy here today on iRacing. But regardless of that, UK and Ireland, Lorenzo, again, we didn't think it could get more dominant, but with this second race, even better.
And basically, I'm just seeing over here on the iRacing chat, our friend, the little friend Jake Sperry, just said UK and Ireland 1st to 7th. You can't get more dominant than that. And now they're actually going to battle really on the next round. Either Deutschland and Austria and all those countries around it. So it's going to be basically a battle of the favorites. I thought UK was going to be one of the favorites to win, but right now, if they do not, if the battle between Deutschland and all US All-Stars, it's basically a battle to see who might be the favorite to win this thing. I believe the winner is going to come out of this.
Yeah, so let's look at your final race results for Heat 2 of the 3rd knockout round of the day. Mark Usher leads away the UK and Ireland team as well. He's followed by George Lambert and Mark Pickford. Lambert with that late pit stop. It got very nerve-wracking, of course, as well. But individually, he claims a podium position, of course, as well. Jack McIntyre heads the first runners outside the podium. The best of the rest, basically, of course, as well. Alex Millward rounds out the top 5. What a drive from Steve Greenwood, and Barry West was involved in battles throughout the entire day and ends up in 7th, of course, today in this inverted second heat of the day. The first 2 Italian drivers are Mirko Frontini and Marco Sanfilippo. end up in 8th and 9th as well. We saw another Sanfilippo and Danilo at the start of the event, coming with some troubles, of course, as well. We'll talk about that in a little moment's time. Matthew Webb is there on screen. We'll cycle through the order, of course, as well. Matthew Webb was out of the event after exiting the pit lane. We saw that on screens, of course, too. Francisco Miola with some troubles along with Moreno Sirica. So for Italians, it was a race of attrition today, which really cost them when you look at it on paper. But if you look at the likes of Danilo Sanfilippo, that was the trouble. Started this race from a promising grid slot, and it just looked very weird, Lorenzo. It looked like he engaged reverse gear at the start, or if he just stalled the car, something went wrong for him.
Yeah, something went wrong for him and basically wreaked havoc. But you cannot take away the fact that two other drivers in front of him actually did crash at the very start, and unfortunately took basically nearly 50% out of the team away from the contention. As we're probably going to have an interview coming up right now.
Yeah, Paul Thurston joins us, the club captain for UK and Ireland. Paul, you've got to be quite jubilant right now. That's more than expected from you guys for Heat 2, clean sweeping the first 7 positions.
Yeah, that's a surprise, especially after the first race when the Italians were, it was closer than it looked. I'm absolutely delighted that I feel sorry for the Italians. Actually, the mess off the start line, you can't cater for that. I mean, they were just so unlucky there. Without that, I reckon it would have easily gone to a third race. I'm glad it didn't, obviously. But what with the oval result earlier on, which was really, really tight against Japan. I mean, 1 point was it in the second race. I thought today could be a bit of a banana skin overall with both, coming up against two very strong sides. But I'm glad we're through those.
The Lotus 79, though, became a race of attrition. Have you guys been putting in some secret special stuff from Bugs Bunny or something that's made you guys drive so quicker? Because this car's very difficult to drive.
We've got a lot of people who drive it. I mean, obviously, being a British car and Brantash being a British track, it's popular with our particular drivers. But we are very lucky with the 79 that we've got people, even going right down. I mean, people like Barry West, obviously my teammate. But you've got Mark Pickford, you've got Mark Usher. I mean, there's some really good, solid drivers in the 79 in the UK&I club. So we were fairly confident. But it's going to be interesting in the later rounds. I don't know who we've got yet, obviously, but assuming it's Diach, that's going to be difficult next week. That's going to be a really, really close race.
All right. Actually, on that note, actually, the next race from road is actually the DH versus USA Stars guys, which basically is probably the club you're going to face up next. And if you had to pick either one of those two, both regions are very strong. They have a lot of strong drivers, and that could make the race really close and really difficult for the UK&I club. But you have had to pick one, either for interesting motives or you think it would be the easier race. Which one would you pick?
In theory, I mean, we'd want the in some ways we'd want the easier race, and I think absolutely no disrespect to the USA team. I think that would be the slightly weaker of the two. In the DH are so very strong on the road, but then on the other hand, I think we could beat DH. We certainly would be capable of it. I wouldn't want to put money on it, absolutely, but that would be a better test. The harder team would be a better test. Going into the final the week after. It's one of those, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Really, it would be nice to beat DH because we've been beaten by them so many times in the World Cup. It would be nice to put one over them. It's a bit like the football in the World Cup. It's always nice to beat the Germans.
So there you have it, Paul Thurston, who is club captain from UK and Ireland, speaking to us. Paul, any last thank yous you have before we go?
I'd like to thank Andrew Streetley and Jonathan Rex. They are the two, the Oval and Road team captains for this year. They made it a lot. Last year it was all me, and it practically killed me. But this year they've done an absolutely stunning job. I'd like to thank everybody who's turned out as well from the UK&I. It's been a really good effort this year so far, and they're enjoying it. That's the key. I like this format. I think Mike Ouellette and the World Cup team have come up with a really exciting format, which I think works. Can I just say, I was actually watching it on the broadcast because I couldn't get into the server. I was very impressed. I really enjoyed the broadcast as well. So thank you to RaceSpot as well.
Oh. Well, I'll kind of tell you something as well. I discussed with Sebastian Job yesterday, who's also a UK and Ireland driver. I'm very disappointed he's not racing here for you guys. But
so are we.
We talked on my podcast and said, you know what? Heat racing is actually a very underrated form of racing throughout the world. Like, you could turn the whole British Formula Ford series into a heat event every week or something. But anyway, that's a topic for another day. Paul Thurston there, club captain from UK and Ireland. We're going to quickly speak as well to Enzo Canto, who came home not with some any good results as well. And Enzo, I can see you're the only driver left in the server right now. You're certainly disappointed with that for the team. But hey, end of the day, Italy competed, and you guys will be proud of the way you competed regardless.
Hi guys, yes, I'm a little bit disappointed, but knew all that this will be a very hard race because we knew all the UK&I drivers, their speed is awesome, so we had to believe in our speed and try to do our best to win this race, but we knew that it would be difficult. So the first race was awesome. I had a very good start. I tried to exit from the pits in front of George Lambert, but he was too fast for me. And we did all an awesome race. A race, I think. In the second, I think you saw what happened. Sanfilippo shut off his steering wheel, so he didn't start, and we crashed each other. And so Marcello spun out. Nothing went good in the second race. So I am satisfied because the first race was good, the second no, but surely UK&I drivers deserve this victory because they are awesome.
But Enzo, on that note, actually, Paul did a really mention about the race one was actually closer than it looked, and I kind of agree on that matter, because it was, even though it was UK&I first to fourth and you were fifth if I'm not mistaken, it was a really close race, so it had a really good promise of a really good closing race. Unfortunately that happened, but in a hypothetical way, do you guys think if had the second race without any of these things happening, do you really think a third race would be possible? You guys did any mathematics or anything of the sort?
We didn't do calculation after the first race, but looking at the grid in the second race, we surely could have many chances to win, because we could slow down faster drivers from UK&I. It will be our unique strategy, and completing the race, everyone in our team, we could have one chance, but only one chance, and I was believing that we could take that chance, but definitely I think it could be not so fair, so things were right in this way. UK&I deserve this victory, so good luck for them for the next races.
And finally, one last question. I know you're a driver from the 2K World Cup, Enzo, and you like to drive the Skippies, but do you really prefer the Skippy or the Lotus?
What a nice question. Well, you know, I'm a very experienced driver in the Skippy. I'm racing in Skippy from my beginning on iRacing from 2013, I really like these old style cars. Lotus 79 and Lotus 49 for me are at the same level. So I think that in the future I will try to take this area more seriously with more practice, and I think I will try to compete in the official league because I like it so much. And I have to make a choice because I have no time enough to race in 2 series because I have a family, I have a son, so less time than before. And but yeah, I really like this car, and I enjoyed this race, and I had so much fun.
Right. Any final words before? Any final thank yous you want to give to people?
Yeah, surely I have to say thanks to all my teammates today because we all tried to do our best to race in a fair and clean way as the other team, surely. And I have to say thanks to my team, Mivano Racing, and my team manager, Fabio Mantellini, because he allowed me to do this race, and I wish he would be a little bit happy for my result, because in the broadcast you spoke about me sometimes, so for the sponsor it's good. So Transmaster and all the other sponsors of Mivano, I have to say thanks to them all, and obviously to you for this awesome work in broadcast as always.
Aw. Appreciate that, Enzo. So that was Enzo Canta there representing the Italian club, of course. We're about ready to wrap up here, of course. I do have to first apologize to to the driver of, was it Daniela before, I think, who I thought stalled on the grid. Yeah, we didn't know the wheel shut off there, of course, as well. So unfortunate there for the Italian team. But regardless of that, we are over for the 3rd road race for the World Cup of iRacing here in the knockout rounds. Don't leave us, because in just an hour's time, we're going to head to the oval portion of the series. That will be on RaceSpot TV, stream live on the iRacing eSports network. Thanks to the load of viewers watching us here today. We hope you enjoyed the broadcast, of course, as well. I am Jonathan Simon, alongside Lorenzo Bonda, Paul Smith in production behind the scenes. And thanks, of course, as well to Istvan Bello, Andreas Werner, Simon Grossman, and Nick Thiessen for all their work behind the scenes in production, of course, because this has been a RaceSpot TV presentation broadcasted on the iRacing eSports network. We say so long from Brands Hatch. We'll see you shortly for the oval races soon.
The following is a presentation of the iRacing eSports Network.